that series.
I do too, but I want to hear from you guys and whether you like it or not, because we're here for you guys. We enjoy filming content that means something for you. So if it's just not hitting the spot, let us know. We'll film something else.
Right. So if you haven't seen it, we take exercises, compare and contrast to tell you which one's better for the same body part. Right. So we're going to give you the best exercises and tell you why. Right. So you can go ahead and program them into your program and not waste time with the not best exercises to do. So if you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out. The last one's dropping Monday.
Absolutely. We also have a compound exercise series going on right now. That's James's, and it's really great because he takes you through all of the most effective compound exercises for each body part. And if you've been following us for a while, we typically tell you when you start working out, whatever body part it is, start with your compound exercises. So if you're not sure what they are, then this is a great series for you to check out as well.
Okay.
All right. So today, as our end cap for which is better for muscle hypertrophy, we're going to get into high volume versus low volume, y'all. But first,
it's an age-old debate. Age-old.
Yeah, but first, let's just define what hypertrophy is. So in this case, when we say hypertrophy, we're really talking about increasing muscle size as a result of weightlifting or resistance training.
Yep. So when your muscles get bigger, it's hypertrophy.
Yeah. All right. So volume. All right. I'm sure you guys have heard this term before, high volume, low volume, and there is a difference between them. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what low volume is, James?
So we're going to hashtag this. So we're doing low volume. What we're calling high volume, I would normally call moderate volume. We're calling it high volume today. So we'll get into that a little bit more. Low volume would be fewer sets, reps during your workouts, typically 1 to 5 reps, 1 to 2 sets.
Yeah, and so while it may not, directly maximize muscle growth, it certainly has a place in terms of strength gains and maintaining whatever muscle mass you do have. So that's really the purpose, in my opinion, of doing lower volume training sets.
I agree. If you want to get stronger, go ahead and do less than 6.
Yeah.
But if you want hypertrophy, you got to do 6 reps.
Right. So an example of what lower volume would be is probably doing 2 to 3 sets, and you're probably using heavier weights, right? Because we're targeting that strength gain. So that means your reps are usually lower. So maybe you're doing like that 4 to 6 rep range. So lower volume, 2 to 3 sets, heavier weights, and 4 to 6 reps in this case.
Yeah, and both these workouts are hard, y'all. Don't think.
Yeah, don't knock it.
Don't think that because you're doing fewer reps, it's easier. It's not.
Yeah,
you're doing heavier weight.
It's really, really intense for sure. High volume, now on the other hand, is doing a larger amount of work during your training set. So in this case, like it could be doing more of that 3 to 4 sets, 10 to 12 reps, which is more of that hypertrophy range that James and I talk about in our videos.
If you've watched for a while, that's our sweet spot. That's the hypertrophy spot, baby. To me, that's moderate volume. When you say high volume, I'm thinking 20, 30 reps. Now you're talking about doing a body pump class. Now you're talking about exercise or muscle endurance. You're not really building muscle. You're toning, you're firming, you're burning calories, but you're not really making muscles.
Chakib, hello.
Hey,
welcome
Chakib.
back. Thanks for tuning in again. So yeah, the purpose of higher volume, at least for our purposes, is really to key into that muscle growth, that hypertrophy, and help you progress towards your muscle gains that you're trying to go for.
Right.
So let's kind of compare and contrast now high volume versus low volume. So let's talk about pros for high volume. Right. What do you think?
Less wear and tear on your joints because you're losing lighter weights. You get more muscles, you're going to build more muscles. That's a benefit.
Right. I think there's a lot more stimulus over a time period. So kind of like that exposure to the stimulus, right? Because you are doing more reps than the lower volume sets.
Time under tension.
Yeah. And so anytime you have more time under tension and you're applying that stimulus longer, it usually leads to muscle gain. So that's definitely a pro for the higher volume approach.
Yeah, and I believe 100% doesn't beat you up as much because like if you watched last week, I failed on the 585 deadlift.
Ooh.
I was sore for 3 weeks.
I was there. It looked heavy. It looked intense when he was trying that.
Yeah, and that was 0 reps, y'all. I didn't even get 1. So it's less wear and tear when you're doing 6 to 12 as opposed to loading that weight up and going for 1.
I mean, that's why, like, if you look at how to program in strength programs, people don't just train strength for strength year round, right? Like, they switch back and forth.
Yeah. Deload weeks, deload months.
Absolutely. What about some cons for doing higher rep? I mean, you talked about the wear and tear. That's one. I would say, you know, sometimes it takes longer, right? If we're trying to do 3 to 4 sets and 10 to 12 reps, obviously that takes a lot longer than doing like 2 to 3 sets and 4 to 6 reps. So that's one thing.
Right. So, you know, doing the heavier weights is quicker.
Mm-hmm.
You can get in and out quicker. You're doing fewer sets, so you're doing less stuff. So it is quicker, time saving, but it's going to beat you up, man.
Yeah. And so, you know, last con I would say, and you already touched on this for the higher reps, is definitely just the wear and tear. You know, you're moving your joints longer.
So it beats you up, but, you know, it's maybe not so much on your joints. Just, you know, the overall volume will eventually creep up on you, believe me.
And Jakeep's got a question. Just a reminder for everyone listening. I see we have several subscribers watching. This channel's for you guys. We're here live, so we're here to answer any questions you have. We always come prepared with a topic, which we'll talk about in between questions. But if you have questions, even if they're completely unrelated to this, like fire them away in the chat and we'll answer them.
Sure.
So Jakeep's question is, does jogging after weight training basically, is that allowed? Is that okay? I think is the question in terms of trying to burn off body fat.
100%. If you're going to do your cardio with your weights, you should do it after weight training.
Yep. You either do it after weight training, or if you can separate it, which would be even more ideal by 3-4 hours, I would separate your cardio out. Because what happens is you want to go into the gym and, you know, unleash every ounce of energy that you have onto that weight training set and burn through, you know, you want to burn through your glycogen stores hitting the weights. You don't want to go for a jog, burn through all the glycogen stores and then have no energy left in the tank to hit your weights.
Right. So after your glycogen stores are burnt while you're lifting, now you're tapping into the fat. You're burning fat while you're doing your cardio because you already burnt your glycogen stores while you were lifting.
Absolutely.
Great question, Jakeep.
All right. So did we cover everything for low volume versus high volume, pros and cons?
Pros and cons.
I think so.
Well, hashtag this. You have to go with what you like. You know, everybody has a style that they prefer. And if you get somebody that loves high volume and say, you're only doing 1 set of 1 rep, they're not going to stick around very long, believe me. You can get them results. They might stick around a little bit longer, but if they hate it, absolutely hate it, they're not going to stick around. And believe me, when I was in the Army, I would load up the bench press and do 1 rep every single chest day, and I hated it. I used to hate training chest because I was stuck at 225 for so stinking long. But we're over that. I hardly ever do only 1 rep anymore. There's a place for it in your training program, but I hardly ever do 1 rep anymore.
I hear ya. What about, I mean, you said, you know, everyone's kind of got a preference. Let's talk maybe a little bit about some of the bodybuilders and coaches. Bodybuilders and coaches, like throughout time, like what their preferences are. Okay, like, what do you think about that?
That's a good point. So there's a lot of different philosophies, a lot of different big names out there to do different stuff. Arnold, high volume, 2 hours twice a day in the gym, you know. And then you got Mike Mentzer, 12 minutes once a week in the gym. They both had stellar championship physiques. So who's right?
Yeah.
Who was correct? You know, there's 2 different styles. They both built stellar physiques. So that should tell you there's more than one road to success here, folks.
Absolutely. Another one that comes to mind is John Meadows, the Mountain Dog.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. If you guys watch his channel, I mean, he talks about how back in the day, like they would like do a heavy set of something to like overload the muscles, and then they would lighten the weight and crank out like, you know, upwards of 15, 20 reps until they're like absolutely pumped and fatigued to failure.
Yeah.
So that's like extreme high volume.
It is. And you have Mike Mentzer in one of his lectures saying, you know, I don't care if you do 30 reps, as long as you go to failure.
Right.
He prescribes 6 reps to failure because it's more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
You can get there in 6 reps. You don't have to do 30. But if it takes 30 to get there, then that takes 30 to get there. You train to failure.
Right, right. And another one is like Jay Cutler, right? Like, I think he's pretty well known for doing higher volume as well.
Yep.
I mean, he had incredible quads. I mean, look at his legs. They're just impressive, right?
Yep.
So,
I mean, Mr. Olympia, he's going to bust his butt no matter what he's doing. You don't get to that level without working extremely hard, whether it's 6 reps or 12. You're giving it all you got to get to that level.
Right, absolutely. And I see we have another question in the chat. Chakib's asking a question about, you know,
portion control.
Is the hand portion control like a sufficient method for counting calories?
So if you don't know what he's talking about, the portion of your meat should be about the size of your fist.
Right.
That's what Chakib's talking about right now. So if you get a piece of chicken, make a piece of chicken, it should be about the size of your fist. That's what Chakib's referring to. Yeah.
So there's other ones like, you know, same thing, like your fists, if you're doing like a portion of vegetables, if you're doing something like fats, like maybe you're eating almonds or nuts, it's like the size of your thumb. And then in terms of carbs, you think of,
palm of your hand.
You know, cupped palm of your hand. So to answer your question, yes, if that's all you have, right? So there's times where maybe you've gone out to eat, you're at a barbecue, you're at a party, and you're just like, hey, well, I'm not going to bust out my food scale, right? I think that's a really great use of the hand method. But if you're just at home, everyday life, like go ahead and count out your calories. And over time, you'll get really smart at like visually, how much can I have? To meet your macros.
Yes, and you're going to have to be consistent. So if you're measuring with your hand, continue to measure with your hand. Don't go to the scale.
Right.
If you decide to go to the scale, stick with the scale. Don't go back to your hand.
Yeah.
Just be consistent. That way you can adjust. If you're not consistent, you can't adjust what you're eating in your macros and your portions and everything else. But as long as you're consistent, you can make the tweaks you need to. Great question, Chakib.
I see we have some more questions, James. You want to read it while I respond?
Michael says, any advice for shoulder pain when squatting with a straight bar?
Yes. Use the safety squat bar
if you have
one. I don't know if you know what that is, but basically it's got a big shoulder pad and handles in the front. So you can hold the weight here versus having to abduct those shoulders all the way back with the bar. Because I get it. I've had some like AC joint issues, and like having to articulate the shoulders back and keep them cranked is really hard.
Yeah, and I've seen guys, I wouldn't recommend it, but I've seen guys do one-handed and the other arm hanging while they squat. If you're on a Smith machine, you can do it with 2 hands. You don't really need to hold the bar. But free weight, I wouldn't really recommend the one-handed version, but I've seen people do it. If you have the safety bar, it will definitely take care of that problem. You're very welcome, Chakib. I'm glad you like the answer, brother. All right, next question. Any tips on how to progressively overload when you hit a plateau? Love you guys. Thank you, John D. Great question, brother, and that is the question you should be asking because you need to bust through that plateau to make gains. Intensifying techniques is probably your best way if you're not overtrained. The number one prescription when you hit a plateau is to rest. That is usually the first thing you do. Rest, recover completely, and then come back and see if you can bust through that plateau, whatever the plateau of the lift is. Give yourself 3 or 4, even 5 rest days. Come back. If you bust through that plateau, you were overtrained. If it's not that, start doing the intensifying techniques, the negatives, the drop sets, the what's another one? Pause.
Superset, yeah, rest, pause. In fact, there's a really great playlist we have. I think it's actually called Intensifying Techniques, and it has an entire library of different intensifying techniques that you can try to bust past your plateau. But we actually have a really great series. I think it actually launches towards the end of next week. And it's going to be talking about getting past those plateaus. Hey. Yeah, I think we start with, I'm not sure if the overhead shoulder presses first. We've got a bicep like bicep curls one,
Fantastic.
like all of your common lifts that you do where, you know, people are like, hey, I've been stagnant for a long time. We're going to talk about how do you get past that.
Excellent. What do you know what this is?
We have Patricia Coates, our other trainer from 88 Health and Wellness, talking about the deck of cards method for visual. I actually don't know that one. So, Patty, if you want to type out, if you're still on, how you use the deck of cards for portion control, I'd love to hear that from you.
Me too.
I'm sure it's a great tip for sure.
Johnny J, another question. Is there any truth to high volume leg training? It's better for gains. That is a great question, Johnny J. You are 100% correct, brother. You have heard correctly. Study after study comes back. Legs respond better to high volume than to low volume. And we're talking higher than 12 reps. This is where you're going to 20. 12 to 20 reps is what you want to hit with legs. Every study after study keeps coming back. High volumes gives you more hypertrophy with legs as opposed to upper body. Upper body, you stay 6 to 12. Legs, you do a little higher. And if you're like Camille and I, you tuned in last week, we'll do 10 as superset.
Yeah.
So we're doing 10 and then 10 more, same muscle group,
Right.
but different exercise. So instead of doing 20 straight squats,
Right.
I do 10 squats, 10 leg extensions.
Exactly. All right. These are great questions,
They are
y'all.
great
Like,
questions.
please keep them coming for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. So kind of going back to which is better for muscle hypertrophy, high volume, low volume, there's a concept I did want to talk to you guys about, and it's called the inverted U relationship. So basically, you know, initially increasing your training volume does lead to better gains. I mean, there's, you know, proven science behind that.
Why? Because you weren't doing it before. You changed something up.
Yes.
That's why.
Yes. And so there's definitely an optimal range when we're talking about maximizing muscle growth with the training volume. So you're going to keep kind of going up, going up, going up. You're going to hit that optimal piece, right? It's the top of the U.
The plateau.
Yeah, the plateau. And then at a certain point, like if you keep increasing that volume and going up, you're kind of too much volume, too much wear and tear, too much fatigue, too much overtraining. And then you're going to notice your strength gains all the way back down. So just keep that inverted U in mind when you're messing around with training volume.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it for too long. Also, remember, you know, you only have so much gas in the tank. So if you're doing high volume, you're going to run out of gas quicker than if you're doing low volume. Just keep that in mind as well. You want to give it all you got. So make sure you hit your first couple lifts with all you got before you start fatiguing.
Yeah, and you'll notice, like, you might still be like cranking out curls or something like that, but it's really junk volume at that point. Like, it's not leading to muscle hypertrophy. Like, you've already hit past that point.
That's the body pump we're talking about. You're not really building muscles.
Right.
You're burning calories 100%. I mean, you're doing 120 curls while you're dancing to a song. It's kind of cool. I've taken body pump before. But are you building muscle now?
Yeah.
It's just junk volume. I mean, it's burning calories.
Right.
If that's the goal, then you're doing good. But if you're trying to build muscle, you're not doing it with 120 reps.
Yeah. So just keep in mind, like, everyone's different. Some people are going to really thrive and make a lot of gains off of higher volume, and then others aren't, right? So it's like completely individualized on which strategy will work best. And I recommend trying it. Right? Like, I did higher volume for years because that's how James trained and we loved training together. And then over time, when I started competing, I realized, like, for me, lower volume or slightly lower volume just was more effective. Like, I liked getting into the gym and getting out and going hard and not really, you know, spending all that time doing all of those sets and all of those reps. But that was just me.
So I think a lot of people fall short with the low volume with their intensity levels.
That's true.
In order for that to work, you have to go grotesque intensity level. I mean grotesque. I'm not sure I can go that hard myself.
It's hard doing that to yourself.
Your mind is saying no, no, because it's trying to protect your body. But you have to get past that and keep pushing. And when I say grotesque, I mean grotesque. These people are throwing up. Their eyes are water. They're crying because it hurts so bad during their set, and they're still pumping them out.
Right.
This is stuff I've seen, I've witnessed. I've thrown up a few times. I've never cried. But you are going to go to grotesque levels with low volume if you want it to work.
Yep. All right. So 88 Health and Wellness. Patricia's got an answer for us. She says the deck of cards method for portion control is you equate 3 ounces of a protein to approximately the size of a deck of cards.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, that does make sense, right? So that's a great visual cue that you can use if you're out and about and don't have that food scale, so you can stay on point with your macros. Yeah, thanks for that, Patty. Thanks for that. All right, so I think we've kind of covered everything with the high volume versus low volume, but again, find the right balance for you. That might mean some trial and error.
100%. You should be trying different stuff anyway, different programs, because it'll work. Some will work. Some of it will work for me. Some of it won't work for me, But I'm definitely going to give a 6 to 8 week try to see if it works. If you watched, I knew the Mentzer style wasn't going to work for me within a couple weeks because I can't take that many rest days. Yeah.
Mentally, that's just, it's hard to do the Mike Mentzer style for sure. Chiquip's got another question.
Right,
so what is the difference between compound exercises, accessory exercises, and isolation? I'm going to let James answer this since he's launched the compound exercise series.
All right. So compound lifts are ones that the easiest way to think of it they move 2 joints. So right here, you got a shoulder and an elbow moving. So that's a compound. Bench press is compound movement. Tricep extension, where you push it straight down, it's only an elbow. That's an isolation movement. The accessory lifts you're talking about, they are isolation exercises, but they are to help your bench press. For example, if I'm doing a bench press workout, I'm going to hit the bench, and then accessory lift might be tricep press downs to get the tricep stronger to help on the lockout on that bench press. If you're doing legs, your squats are your big compound movements. Your accessory moves would be leg extensions because they isolate the quads, and you're only moving that knee there. Whereas a squat, you're moving knees, hips, ankles, et cetera, et cetera. Great question, Chiquib.
Yeah, I see. John's got another comment in here. He says he's currently doing leg extensions and squat superset and leg curl RDL superset, but getting only 7 to 8 reps on the squat and deadlift. Should I lower the weight and do more reps?
So you're pretty exhausting with the leg curl and the leg extension. Great. Mm-hmm. That's and those are great supersets, by the way. Good,
yeah, it is.
Good job, John. Hey, that's awesome. Should you lower the weight and get more reps? I would try to get at least 10, brother. 10 and 10.
Yeah.
You're not doing wrong with 7 to 8 to failure. Matter of fact, I wouldn't even lighten the weight. I would just add a rep next week.
Yeah, that was kind of my question is, are you adding reps or are you adding weight each time, or are you truly stuck where it's like no matter how much weight I try to add, I just can't get past 7 or 8. Yeah. So that's just something to consider. And then to James's point, you are pre-exhausting with the leg extensions. So you could, that might be too much stimulus for you. You might want to switch the superset, right? And do the squats first. You could reverse it and see if that'll get you past your plateau if you're stuck. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you're on track. Don't think you're off track. I would just try to add a rep. You're doing 7 to 8. Right. So next week, do 8 to 9.
Right.
The
same
week
weight.
After that, 9 to 10. Same weight. As soon as you hit 10, add weight. Go down to 6.
Absolutely.
And then go to 7 the following week, 8 the next week, 9 the next week, 10, and then add weight, go back to 6.
You got it. No, those were great supersets. In fact, that's usually how we train as well. We pair those things together too.
You're welcome, Chiquib. Love you too, brother. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.
All right, y'all. Well, that's all we have for you today with the high volume versus low volume. So definitely experiment, try it out, see what works. Absolutely.
Do whatever's going to keep you coming back to the gym.
Yeah. Don't do something you hate.
If you absolutely hate doing low volume, then do high volume. You're not going to keep coming back if you're doing something you hate. So if you have a preference, stick with it and just progressively overload whatever you're doing, and you will get the gains.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, and thank you for all the great questions. This channel is here for you guys. So please keep tuning in every Sunday at 12 Eastern. Hit us with all of your questions and stay tuned for all those series that we have launched. Like I said, we're going to close out the Which is Better for Muscle Hypertrophy series. this week.
100%.
Yep. James's compound series keeps going.
Check them out.
And then we're launching a new one that talks about specific exercises and what to do when you reach a plateau on those.
Johnny J. Make sure you check those out, brother. Hey, I'm going to say it again. Appreciate y'all taking time. We're all busy, so I appreciate you taking your time out of your day and tuning in and checking us out.
Bye, everyone. See you next week.